Hello everybody, welcome to what is meant to be our second video in your Aviation Management Research Paper course. If you haven't watched the How to Succeed in Your Research Paper course, I do recommend that you watch that video. Once you've done that and you're ready to start engaging with your research proposal, make sure that you watch this video. It's a short video, and there is also going to be another video where I go through the research proposal, the document in itself. So that's particularly encouraged that Part 1 students watch this video in the early stages so you can be better prepared to engage with us during the Blackboard Collaborate sessions and also in any interaction that you have with me as your course convener. Okay, what we're going to be doing today is looking at how you pick up a research topic. I did discuss this in the previous video, and then I'll go through the main parts of what you should expect to have in your research proposal form. Here is more an academic perspective, so like a theoretical perspective, a concept of what is that you need to do. In the other video that I talk about the form in itself, it's more the practical aspects of completing the form. So we go through what is in the introduction in terms of the background, aims and outcomes that are expected. How do you do a short literature review? What is the methodology you'll be considering, and how do you do your academic references and so on. Some of the things that we're mentioning here, it's a bit of repetition of the first video, but just to emphasize all the bits and pieces that are very important for this milestone of your research paper. How do we think about a research topic? I mentioned earlier, about the passion of your topic, taking opportunity of using it in your to expand your career in aviation, use it as a way of increasing your networking and so on. But really what you need to sit down and consider is you might have a research topic, a theme that you want to study. Let's say you want to study airline management. That's a very vague topic. You need to understand really what is the problem that you're trying to understand in terms of aviation management. What is the problem that exists in aviation that you're trying to solve? You also have to think about what is the subject that I'm considering, because aviation management can be influenced by even so many disciplines. You can have aspects of marketing, you can have aspects of finance, you can have things like the geography of air transport, how the airlines develop hubs and so on, that might be affecting the efficiency. It might be the technology of an aircraft. So what exactly is the subject that you are studying? Who is involved? Who are the main stakeholders that will be involved? It can be stakeholders that are willing to have an answer, or people that can have the answer. So these are the people that you need to consider. Who is impacted by your topic primarily? Are you undertaking research with noise? And that can be the population around an airport. What is the scope of your topic? How far does it go in terms of your decision to realize, is it too broad, is it too narrow? Usually how I would like to start is with keywords. Think about keywords and try to use those keywords to search for information about them. For example, if you're working on airports and if you're also working with revenues in airports, and if you also want to look in terms of the context of Australia, well, I think you have three keywords there. First one, airports. Second, revenue or aeronautical revenues or non-aeronautical revenues. Third one, Australia. So what you want to do is that you want to start having an understanding what are the research that exists in my topic. It might be that you have research on airport and aeronautical revenues, and there's a lot of material on that. It might be that you have also a few studies focusing on Australia. So, and it might be that you have something about airport in Australia. So it's not a literature dealing directly with aeronautical revenues, but you still want to understand what is the background of the regulatory aspects of airports in Australia that it will actually influence the ability of airports to generate aeronautical or non-aeronautical revenue. So I do suggest that you clearly consider what are your keywords, so because they're going to be very important when you go to Google Scholar or you're going to go to the library catalog and start to try to research for resources that are valuable for your research topic, and even to choose a research topic or make a decision between one or the next. In your introduction, you will have to write about your aims and objectives. And it's very important that you understand the difference between the two. The aims are statements, usually like in one sentence, a short one, that you try to define what you want to accomplish. It's like the barbecue line that you want to talk to someone. Someone asks you in 15 seconds or 30 seconds, what is your research about? What is the aim of your research paper? It has to be very clear, you know. It's one of those sentences that you might spend, several minutes to write, because every single word is very important in terms of the outcomes, the aspirations that you have for your research. And usually it's not number, it's usually a sentence, and you can have a look at some examples in terms of how it can be done. And then the aim will usually generate a certain objectives. Objectives is basically a plan, and that's probably a good place for you to actually use numbers or bullet points, where you try to pinpoint what is your research more immediate effects. So they're a lot more practical, a lot more focused. How are you actually going to be doing this? So if my previous aim was I want to understand the influence of non-aeronautical revenues in the context of the deregulated airport environment in Australia, then you can have a first objective, which will be you want to map out the increase or decrease of non-aeronautical revenues in terms of the whole revenue generation of airports since the regulation. So it's a lot more practical in that aspect. It's also important that each objective must have a concrete method set out. How you will then answer the objective that you have for yourself. Well, let's say in my case, you don't need to write about it in your objective, but in your methodology, you then have to think, well, I'll try to ask the Australian Airports Association to provide me data. I will go to the website or the annual reports of airports and I'll try to collect that information. So it has to have a very concrete method how you're going to be answering these. Okay. A literature review. It only comes from reading. You're not going to write. The best way to map out or identify a good literature review and a not so good one is through reading. Remember, your mentor, myself, we do have a broad knowledge in aviation. We know what are the key references. We want you to go out there and search for them, and while you search for them, you actually bump into other references, and then you develop this broader understanding of your topic. Don't get frustrated or anxious, but do have a list of papers that you need to read. It might easily be 10, 15 or 20. Make sure that you have, an hour, 2 hours for you to read each paper. It has to really be an understanding of, what is this paper trying to tell me and how relevant it is for my research. A paper can sometimes indicate areas in a similar topic that further research can be undertaken. You can take ideas out of that. You can have a look in terms of the method and the theories used, and you can apply in a different angle. Don't get frustrated or anxious, and try to enjoy the process. But above all, don't rush, and that's where you need time to mature your research proposal and your research paper. So reading is really very important, and take notes and put those notes and make sure that you, as you write one paragraph, maybe about an idea, that this paragraph is actually about one idea and only one idea, and you extract the most of your paper or several papers that you're writing about that particular idea. What is methodology and data collection? Methodology is from the Greek, actually means how you go through something, the way that will take you to something. If you want a formal definition, it's the process used to collect information and data for the purpose of making business decisions. The methodology may include publication research, interviews, surveys, and other research techniques, and could include both present and historical information. There are basically two types of research that can be done. One is a practical research, a research that involves some empirical study in a particular topic and has a very strong hands-on approach. It can involve primary data collection using questionnaires, surveys, interviews, and even observation or discussion groups. Be creative. Eventually you can do discussion groups or focus groups with your own colleagues or with alumni. Of Griffith Aviation. I think there is a number of opportunities and a number of resources out there that are available. You can also do some theoretical research, some non-empirical research, and that would eventually either a literature review of a topic, or you can also achieve that through considering a theoretical concept in terms of how to develop a new theory on your particular topic. There are a number of resources available at Learning at Griffith for you to have a better understanding, and as I point out, Research Matters books are also a very valuable resource. Research can also be either qualitative or quantitative. It actually can be a mix of both. Qualitative research is usually involves the description of a specific situation. It's usually also done with case studies in some examples. Quantitative research usually does require numerical and statistical explanations. It's particularly useful when you need to collect a large sample, for example, with passengers, and it's important that if you're going for a large sample because you want to make sure your responses are representative, a lot of the times the using numbers is a lot more beneficial than necessarily qualitative, where you need to get a story or you need to have a better understanding of historical experiences. We do have correlation regression analysis that also can be used. We can also do a meta-analysis research. What is impact, for example, that studies on a certain topic on human factors might have had, and you can track that using meta-analysis as well. I did in my previous video how to succeed in the research paper course. I did provide a good explanation of the difference between the two formats. I'm just highlighting then again for you in your consideration. You now might have a better idea whether your topic or your research will be towards more one or the other. But please make sure you revisit this previous video. If you're collecting primary data, again, as I also mentioned in the other video, you do need ethics application. Please consult with me. And there's a number of resources also available at Learning at Griffith. Some of the resources I also mentioned, if you haven't read or haven't purchased the required textbook by Don Harris, Writing Human Factors Research Papers, you have to be doing this very soon. It's paramount that you read the book. It's going to expand a lot of your knowledge, particularly in this course where we don't have classes. So it's up to you to fulfill your need of learning. Submission of proposal. again, once more, I've been through this. It's very important that you start working on your proposal very soon. My experience is that students with weak proposals submitting to me at week 8, it's because they start late. Don't underestimate the amount of time that will take you to write a good proposal. It sounds like it's just a 4-page form. It does require you 80 to 100 hours of readings, of reflection, of consideration in terms of what is your research topic, how do you actually do it, how do you write a good aim, what are your research objectives, and more importantly, how do you achieve what you want to achieve. A lot of the students who have rushed and haven't spent enough time, they don't have the answer for that because you haven't done, or most of you haven't done research in the past. Don't underestimate. Ask yourself the hard questions to make sure that you are ahead of the game when you submit your proposal, when you engage with the mentors. Folks, that's pretty much what I want to talk to you about, the overall aspects of your research proposal. And please make sure you watch our other video where I'll go through the research form and provide you some specific details on how to complete it.